President Biden welcomed British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to the White House this morning as the two allies aim to strengthen economic ties between the U.S. and the U.K. and focus on next steps in Ukraine.
Together, we're providing economic, humanitarian aid and security assistance to Ukraine in their fight against the brutal invasion of the Russians. We don't have a closer ally than Great Britain.
Joining me now is John Kirby, National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications at the White House. John, Britain is clearly our strongest ally in supporting Ukraine. Does the administration believe that Ukraine's anticipated counteroffensive is now underway? We've seen intensified fighting overnight.
We certainly have seen levels of violence increasing here in combat over the last actually several days and even weeks, I would say, Andrea. We're going to leave it to the Ukrainians, though, to describe their operations and what they're doing. I don't think it would be appropriate for us to speculate or to characterize it here from the White House. What I can tell you is, as you heard the president just say, we are going to continue to make sure that they got everything they need to be successful in operations going on in the weeks and months ahead. And we've done that, and we're going to continue to make sure that they can succeed on the battlefield.
Well, as you know, President Zelensky has certainly made it clear, as have his cabinet ministers, that they need more. They're running out of ammunition. They're running out of Patriots. The Russians have just been hammering them the last couple of weeks. Are we able to step that up, or do we have our own supply chain problems?
I would tell you that, again, without getting ahead of where we are here this afternoon, you're going to see continued support and security assistance packages making their way to Ukraine, not just from the United States, but from other of our allies and partners, including the Brits. We know they're in a significant scrap right now, and we know that the fighting could get much more intense here in the weeks ahead. And the United States, the United Kingdom, all our allies and partners across NATO, we all are going to do what we can to make sure that they have what they need. Now, that's going to be a dynamic process, Andrea. You know, it's going to, we're going to move as fast as we can, as we have, and we're going to stay in touch with the Ukrainians in real time to make sure we're meeting their needs as best as possible. That's not just about quantity and speed, but it's about quality. It's what kinds of systems do they need as they get into more offensive operations.
Well, it's very clear that the F-16s and, in fact, the Abrams tanks are for down the road, the fall and after, for the long-term security of Ukraine. That's not for this counteroffensive. But isn't the counteroffensive really going to determine whether they have leverage at the negotiating table, with pressure mounting from within Europe and elsewhere for them to start sitting down?
Certainly, whatever offensive operations they conduct here this summer are going to be critical going into the fall and into the winter months when the fighting usually subdues. And certainly, we'd all like to see this war end today if it could. President Zelensky has to determine how he wants to use his military to push the Russians out of Russian-occupied territory and take back the territory that's rightfully his. That's really the goal here. It's not just a gambit to sort of get leverage at the negotiating table. Neither side is ready to sit down for talks right now. Certainly, Mr. Putin has shown no inclination to pursue diplomacy. So our focus is really making sure that as the Ukrainians decide to get more aggressive on the battlefield, that they've got what they need to be successful, and that's what we're doing.
We've been told that the U.S. and allies are leaning toward Russia being responsible for the mining of that critical dam. Has that been confirmed?
No, I would tell you we're still assessing. We're still talking to the Ukrainians, but we're not in a position right now where we can say definitively how this breach occurred at the dam. The nature of the explosion that allegedly set that breach off. We just don't know. What we do know is that that breach has caused a humanitarian catastrophe in southern Ukraine. Now, people are without water, without their homes, without power. Lives have been lost, and so the United States and our humanitarian partners are really leaning in to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help Ukrainians on the ground down there, particularly in the south. It looks like tens of thousands of people have been affected by this.
Well, to that point, can we bring in, major supplies? Can USAID help? What more visibly can we do to help people with evacuations, with clean water, with other equipment that they need?
I would tell you, Andrea, that within hours of the breach, USAID had reached out to their partners on the ground and were already working to help Ukrainians. And that includes, again, within hours, just having buses on the ground so that people had a mode of transportation to escape the flooding and to try to take some of their belongings with them. We've also had pre-positioned with our partners on the ground. We're not on the ground, but with our USAID partners on the ground, pre-positioned things like water and water for water purification equipment. We're even working to get them boats and rescue gear on the ground, and that work will continue going forward. So we were ready within hours to help them, and that aid has persisted.
China and Cuba have now reached a secret agreement, we are told, for China to establish an electronic facility on the island, which would allow Chinese intelligence services to scoop up electronic communications throughout the southeastern U.S. What is your reaction to this?
Look, I've seen that press report. It's not accurate. What I can tell you is that we have been concerned since day one of this administration about China's influence activities around the world, certainly in this hemisphere and in this region. We're watching this very, very closely, and we will, and we have, and will continue to take steps to mitigate any potential threat that those activities might pose, so that we can make sure, and we're positive, that we can continue to defend this nation.
You're saying it's not accurate that they're planning this?
I'm saying we've seen the report. It's not accurate. We're focused on making sure that we can mitigate any threats from China in the region.
And with Secretary Blinken reportedly heading to China in the near future, within weeks, let's say, could this be a turning point? Could this set the stage for President Biden and President Xi to finally have that phone call that in February the president said was going to happen soon?
Well, again, I don't have anything to announce with respect to the Secretary's travel. We do expect that he'll be able to get over to Beijing again. That's what we want. And that visit may be followed by leaders besides just Secretary Blinken, other cabinet officials. We want to get those lines of communication back open. That was the whole purpose of Secretary Blinken's desire to go in the first place. So we'll see where that takes us. So we certainly hope it will be positive and constructive, and we'll get these lines of communication back open. And as for the president, look, he's got a relationship with President Xi. They've known each other a long time. You've heard him say this before. He looks forward to talking to President Xi again at the appropriate time. And when that is, well, we'll certainly let everybody know.
Well, thank you, John Kirby, for coming out on a smoky day there on the North Lawn. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.